Us today for our webinar about how to optimize your change management processes with Asite for Acumatica. My name is Marika Deemer, a marketing coordinator here at Action. Just some quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, so you are muted. The link to the recording will be sent to you automatically shortly after the webinar finishes. There is no dial-in number for this webinar, so hopefully you can all hear us. During the presentation, please use the Q&A feature to ask questions if needed, and we will answer them during the Q&A session at the end. Also, we provided a post-webinar survey, which is already available in your webinar console. Please fill that out as your feedback is important to us. With that being said, let me pass it over to Asite's Chief Revenue Officer, Dan Lehman.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Excited to be here. Yes, my name is Dan Lehman, and I am the Chief Revenue Officer here at Asite, and we're thrilled to have everybody here. So let's kind of do a couple things here to kind of cover the agenda in regards to kind of set the stage and cover the agenda in regards to what we're going to cover here in the next half an hour to 45 minutes. So really the topics that we're gonna be reviewing here are all related around to ways that the combination of Asite and Acumatica can help you to navigate change throughout your projects. And as we all know, change is kind of a key, and change management is really a key aspect of ensuring that your projects are delivered in a timely timely fashion and on budget, delivering the profits that your business is expecting. So when we start talking about change, we start talking about concepts of quickly resolving issues. We start talking about communication to stakeholders. We start talking about ways to provide for tools to help members understand what change is happening. And then ensure that all costs are appropriately captured and that potential revenue is captured. And all of this is incredibly important. Just to reference a third-party study, for every $1 billion spent on projects in the U.S., there was roughly a loss of 122 million, meaning that 12% of budgets for projects was wasted due to poor management. And really that comes down to change management, really at the heart of the issue. Okay, and so what we're going to be covering here today, again, are tools to help mitigate some of those risks and help ensure that your team is set up to be successful. All right, so let's take a look here at, kind of talk a little bit more about kind of introduction here to Asite. So with Asite, we are providing a project management and project collaboration tool. And so as you take a look here at the slide that you're seeing on the screen now, or that you should be seeing on the screen, where it says Asite Project Workflow designed to meet the needs of today's contractor. Mars, I could just confirm real quick that everybody's staying with me here as I advance the slides. Can you see that on your screen? I'll take that as a yes. Okay. So as we take a look at this functionality that we have listed here, I really want to take this and divide this into two sides here up top. Part of this is what's called the common data environment. And it's really kind of that singular location where we're going to store files in regards to plans. We're going to store revisions in regards to plans. We're going to distribute revisions when change happens to the participants in the project. We're going to allow for collaboration and coordination and conversation threads in regards to any of the files that we're storing on the application. Okay. And then as we move over and take a look at the right, we're going to get into some of the kind of form-based tools that we provide in the application. So we're going to take a look at talk about incidents and RFIs and of course change orders. I'm not going to dive into daily field reporting and meeting minutes, but again, standard processes that we're allowing you to manage on our application. Of course, submittal processes. And then we will take a look at kind of like some punch list or a punch item type task here to identify an issue today. And of course, we'll also provide, not going to get into it today, but quality and inspections and permits and health and safety and some scheduling components, all here as part of the application, right? So all part of the application. And again, we're going to be highlighting today several tools that we've identified, under the umbrella theme of change management, and which is, again, kind of really a global, kind of a global thought is all of, really managing projects every day, right? It's all about managing the change. All of this is built on top of the Asite platform, and we're going to be highlighting some of these components today as we go through this as well. So we have dashboarding tools that we'll be highlighting here as part of the application. We're gonna take a look a little bit at our mobile application. Okay, and here's a way of identifying an issue and tracking it through. We'll talk a little bit about what we call our app builder tool, which is really our forms creation tool. And we're not going to spend a lot of time taking a look at that, but I do want to highlight the ability to change and modify forms or create bespoke forms should you have a need to do that. We do, and again, we're not going to get into detail here into the workflow tools, but we have a very robust workflow engine behind what we're doing. And of course, from a security perspective, we're hosted on Microsoft Azure. Everything we do is collaborative here as part of this, and we do have open APIs as well, should there be a need to synchronize out with other third-party applications, right? So again, it's kind of a brief overview of some of the functionality that Asite provides and some of the themes that we're going to be touching on as we move through today. So let's keep moving. Now, as we kind of all know, as we've teed this up, this is really a joint presentation in regards to how Asite complements your existing Acumatica solution on the back end. So you have Acumatica as your project financials tool, and then we'll be layering in Asite as that project management, project collaboration tool. And then we'll also be discussing, as we move through this, we'll be discussing the handoff process in regards to, how when we're managing, potentially take something to a change request, but ultimately that needs to be passed off to Acumatica, and how that handoff happens so that it's updating your, it's updates ultimately through to a change order record in Acumatica. It's updating your cost to complete. You may have some contract and, some contract change orders that are associated with it as well. So all of that handoff will take place, and we'll manage it. We'll kind of show you how that's happening. Okay. All right. Now the last slide here before we start getting into the application. What you see here again is kind of the general agenda that we're going to cover. So we're going to start with just kind of a brief overview of the solution. Kind of orient you with what you're seeing here in regards to the Asite solution. We'll talk a little bit about dashboards. We'll talk about the files and forms here just a little bit. And then we'll get in and we'll take a look at kind of an issue process and kind of capture an issue from a mobile device and send that through from a management perspective. And we'll take a look at RFIs, kind of working that through, take a look at how somebody might receive a notification that they have something to respond to on an RFI and how they would action it. We'll take a look a little bit about how you actually could customize those forms as part of that. And then we'll take a look at as we move on, kind of the next piece here, some of the plan revision management, some of the overlay features. We'll talk about how we would distribute plan sets to all the team members so that everybody has access to the updated plans. And then we'll, kind of last but not least, we'll talk about that handoff process to Acumatica. And so with that, I'm going to share my screen here. And Mars, when I do this, if you could confirm that I have shared it correctly.
Okay.
All right. So I now have Acumatica open. Do you see that?
Yep.
And
you're all good to go.
What's that? All good?
Yeah, you're all good.
Perfect. Okay. So everybody here, I would imagine, is very familiar with Acumatica. You're used to using your application in the ways that you use it for all of your financial components, billing components, et cetera. What you're seeing here is now Asite layered in to Acumatica. And so as we're going to talk here in just a little bit about management of tools like your RFIs and submittals and issues and incidents, et cetera, we're going to leverage some of these dashboards here as a way of getting into that and highlighting that. You can see here on the dashboard, I've got different KPIs showing that there are tasks overdue or follow-ups that are required here. Again, we've got some of the apps that we most frequently use in regards to tracking issues and RFIs. And again, we'll come back to all of this. What you also see, and again, we've got just real quick, we can migrate on to kind of just a standard task list or lots of other views of this data. What you also see across the top are some additional tabs, is how this works, right? So if we take a look here on the Files tab, being a little finicky today, apologies. Let me just. So let's click on the Files tab. You're going to see that what we have for any given project is going to be a kind of a folder structure, and we can dig down into folder structures and find information that we're looking for, files that we're storing or sharing, et cetera. And so perhaps if I'm taking a look for something, a file, we can use filter capabilities to filter down and find files that we're looking for, and then open up files. So you have the unlimited ability to store and attach files. We'll come back to this in a little bit, and share files and distribute files out of the system, right? And converse about files. And we'll talk more about this. But the key is that you're able to do this and store files and share files with team members, whether they're internal of your company or external to your company. So it could be subcontractors that you're giving access to files. It could be engineers, architects, et cetera. Okay, so complete flexibility here to set up appropriate folder structures that you want to track, as well as then the ability to store and view up to 100 different file types within the application. So again, when we talk about that common data environment back from that previous screen, this is really what we're talking about here, is kind of the ability to store and track all this information and share it as appropriate. On the project forms piece, we're going to get in and be talking about the management of issues and RFIs, and again, it could be inspections that you're doing, and we'll come back to all this. But all of these forms are completely user definable, right? If we take a look, I'll just pop one up, and we'll take a look at this in a second. And I'm going to take a look at a mobile example here as well. But this is a daily field report. But this is customizable to track any information that you may choose to capture. You can disseminate the daily field reports to anybody that you may choose to, again, whether internal or external, but complete control over all those forms capabilities. Okay. All right. So let's take a look here for a second. That's kind of that lay of the land here. And again, we're going to talk about how all of this is working with Acumatica. And so now let's move on and talk about the issue tracking. And what I'm going to do here is pull this over. This is my mobile device here that you see. This is my iPad. And I'm going to be, going to go through a process here and say that I'm working on a job site. I've got a set of plans up here, maybe walking along, and I find an issue that I want to make note of. And so I'm going to hold down here on a location on my plan set. And you can do this in a couple of different ways, but I'm going to create an issue. Okay. And as we come into this form, and this form again is completely user definable, I'm going to say, okay, I've found an issue that I'm recording now, and issue with the existing wall. And oh, by the way, I'm going to, yep.
Sorry, I don't mean to stop you, but if you're sharing on your iPad, we cannot see it. Right now, we are still looking at your Acumatica screen.
Okay, hold on. Let's make sure that we shared the screen, not the window. So let's do that. And here we go. How's that? Is that better? You see this?
It's loading up. Yep, you're good to go now.
All right, cool. So anyway, so let's take here. I'm going to cancel this, and we're going to get right back into it. Thank you very much, Mars. Appreciate it. Right. So we're going to say we found an issue, and I'm going to create that issue off my plan set, and we're going to say it's an issue with the existing wall. I'm going to capture a picture of my issue. So bear with me for a second. Right, there's the wall. We've got the problem that we're going to deal with. We're going to attach that. Okay. Okay, brick issue. We can capture all sorts of other additional information that we may want to capture with this. Okay. I'm going to say that we want a response here by tomorrow. And I'm actually going to send this out to me as the owner of this. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and send it and save it. So we've now recorded this issue. Okay. So let's put this aside here and let's take a look back in from a management perspective, how we may track that. So as we come back here, we're going to refresh the view. All right. Here's the issue that we just captured. All right, so we're going to take a look at it. Right, we captured our issue. We had our issue list. I may take a look. I may edit this, provide all sorts of information. I may want to take a look at the picture, right, that we captured, all as part of this right here. And then ultimately, after I'm finished dealing with this, I may send it to additional people. I may do lots of different things, but ultimately I'm going to say, okay, Gary took care of it. Or I might, again, we'll talk more. I might say, there may be follow-up RFIs that we're going to talk about, et cetera. But real basics here as far as tracking it through, adding additional information, and ensuring that from an issue perspective, that we followed up on all of the issues and then dealt with anything that needed to be dealt with to ensure that we continue to move through the project. Okay? Real basic use case there from that perspective. All right, let's take a look here. Kind of our next example is that we're going to take a look at an RFI, right? So here and again, we could view this from the project dashboards, or in this case, since I'm in the forms, I'm just going to go ahead and click on my RFIs, and I'm going to clear out some of these filters here because we actually want to see everything, right? So here's my RFI log as we take a look at this. And again, I've got all sorts of capabilities of filtering and looking for information to see what I may want to find. But for right now, I'm just going to go through a process here of going through and just creating a new RFI. So as I click Create Form here, actually here, hang tight for a second. Get that freshened up. As I come in here and I say I'm ready to create a new RFI and create form, I'm going to be asked again for basic information here. So need to find out what should happen with the conflict in the conference room door/walkway. Okay. And again, I can categorize things as I may choose to categorize them. Design coordination, call it whatever it is we want to get to here. I'm going to say that this is a normal priority issue. Is there a potential cost impact? Unknown at this point. Is there a schedule impact? Unknown at this point. Problem with the doorway. Okay. I can add existing files to this, supporting files, if need be. Again, I'm going to send this out to a specific person who may need to follow up with it. All right, and go ahead and send it. Now it'll take a second. Mandatory RFI title. Hang tight, gang. Let's try that again. Okay. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, team. Speak out. I want a response by tomorrow. Okay, so as I do this and I enter this RFI, I've now created an item that needs to be followed up on, right? And has a specific day frame or time frame here that I'm expecting that response. So as I come through and I deal with taking a look at this, I'm going to pull up a kind of what a sample RFA might look like. So this is an email that would have come through to whoever it is that we said needed to follow up on this, follow up on this particular item and provide inputs. So as we come through here, again, I've got, and you can determine what this looks like, but I've got some information that's telling me what I may need to do, what the issues are. If there were attachments that I need to follow up on, we can follow up on that. I can click back here to take a look to get back into the RFI issue, right? To get back into the RFI and respond and close it all out, right? So again, I can get back and see the attachments or files or whatever may be associated with this, all as a part of closing out this process from the RFI, okay? So we've got that RFI log, we've got the means of communicating about the RFIs, taking responses on the RFIs, closing out all the RFIs, and ensuring that everything's get followed up so that nothing falls through the cracks. Now, if we take a quick peek, I just want to, again, all of these, because we've taken a look at kind of a quick daily field report or an issue report or an RFI form, whatever that may be. All of these forms are easily customizable. So as we take a quick look here, I'm going to pull up this form, and there's a variety of different settings that we can create on these forms as well. So as we come through and take a look, what you'll see is that these forms are kind of in this real nice WYSIWYG kind of, what you see is what you get form piece here. Hold on, wrong form. Let's go back. Apologies. Looking for project forms. Apologies, team. Here we go. So this real nice kind of what you see is what you get, where you can drag and drop fields onto the canvas to create the forms that you want. You actually can build logic into these forms, and you have lots of control over how you're managing this and distributing this information. Okay. All right. So let's leave that here, and let's go back to take a look at where we left off. And so we've got back to our dashboard. I'm having a little display issue here today. And we're going to take a look at the capabilities to compare files. All right, so as we have and take a look and we're sharing files, and we come back here into our drawings section, we may have the ability here to track revisions. So we're going to take a look at this Asite office plan, and you can see here that there are actually 4 different revisions that we're currently tracking. And so as we get new documents that come into the system, and we can get them in a couple different ways, but drag and drop them into the system to actually put them on there. The system is constantly taking a look to see if there's a previous revision of that document that existed. And if there was, then it goes through a process of of a revision process. So as we take a look here at this particular document, what you're going to see initially is the most current version of the document. You may have discussions that are going back and forth. I can see who's been distributed the document, who we've sent the document to, and what core comments that have gone out to, et cetera. But what I want to do is compare this. If I get this new drawing set, I may want to compare it to what the drawing originally looked like. And so I'm going to compare it to the original revision. Now, when I do this, it is initially going to show me the view in a side-by-side format, which if you're familiar with the drawings, you may pick up exactly what the change is or what some of the key changes are. So for example, I can see in this case, the hallway here is straight, and over here the hallway is, kind of there's a bigger conference room here. However, it can be very helpful as well to do an overlay here. So as we overlay these documents, we're able to see the application highlight the changes to make sure that we've gone through and we've accounted for whatever changes need to take place here. Okay. And then we can manage the communications and the distributions all from within the application through the distributions. I can distribute the files or share links out to the files, or issue kind of start an RFI process from here or an issue process from here, etc. Okay, so as we're moving through this process now, at some point we are going to hit a point where we need this to actually be reflected back into Acumatica. And so we're going to take this, and I'm going to take a change request now, and I'm going to have it really use this as my means of doing a handoff back into the Acumatica solution. So as I come in here, again, whether I'm in Acumatica or whether I'm not in Acumatica, it doesn't matter in regards to how you're accessing the application or whether you're via mobile device. All right, but I'm going to come through and I'm going to create a change request, and I'm going to hand this over to Acumatica, then go on through the process of, again, any sub changes, budget changes that need to take place, billing for a change request, etc. So, decided we need to replace the wall. Okay, and we're going to take this, and I'm going to say that we've got a need. I want this to kind of get addressed here, by tomorrow, as far as getting paperwork done. Decide who if I want to send a notification to somebody, I can send them a notification that says, hey, this is now on your plate to get this done. Now, I may want to come back here and put I may be saving this or starting to create it, but I may need to come back here and do, kind of put multiple ins to get this all the way done. So if you notice, when I first saved it, it actually didn't sync it to Acumatica. It's an ongoing piece, but I am now ready to actually send it to Acumatica and hand it off there onto some of the accounting side. And so we've got it set up as a status change where I'm going to say, yep, ready to be priced, and hand it over. So as we do this, what you're going to see happens now as we come back over to Acumatica and we go into that change request piece, it has now actually created a change request record that we've just created. So now I can take this in Acumatica and take it through whatever standard process that we would typically go. You'll notice I've got the link back to the original record, so I can always go back and find the history of everything that we did. But now it's really an issue that now I'm going to take through that accounting process here, and really leverage from the rest of this, leverage that Acumatica functionality for the budgeting, costing, billing, etc. Okay. All right, so as we kind of wrap this up, we've kind of taken a look at this over the last half an hour. We've kind of done the introduction of what Asite is. We've done the introduction in regards to some of the issue management tools, the introduction to kind of a typical RFI process, kind of showed some of that plan capability and revision tracking components here as part of this. And then lastly, discussed how we hand data off back through to Acumatica. So Mars, I think that is everything we wanted to highlight today in the change management, kind of introductory change management umbrella. So I'll kind of pause here and ask if there are any questions.
Yeah, so we have a couple for you. We're going to start off with, and I'm going to present it to everybody, but I'll start reading it. Can the files be stored on a SharePoint, or must they be within Acumatica?
So there is an option to have, so one, they definitively will be stored, well, it'll actually be stored in Asite. right, is where they actually get stored and up on our Microsoft Azure platform. We've had some customers that want to keep a replication of those files in their SharePoint site, and so there's a sync process that you can go through. Now you're storing the files in two locations at that point, but there have been some customers that have wanted to do that, and it is available. But by default, most folks would take the path of just storing them up in the cloud, in our Microsoft Azure cloud, and share from there. But again, there is an option that you can sync them back to a local SharePoint server. But good question.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure you kind of answered this, but are documents stored in Asite or in Acumatica?
It's a great question. So the documents are actually stored in the Asite server. And what's important about that too is that you may have certain team members that are going to be coming into Acumatica that you do want to leverage, kind of use the ability to use it from within Acumatica. You may also have other team members that you want to just come in to Asite, right? So when they log in, they'll actually log in, I'll do this, and they won't come into Acumatica. They'll just come right into Asite and have whatever security access, that they have. But if you don't want them to get into Acumatica, they'll just come right into Asite and not kind of get within that firewall of your backend ERP. Okay, great question.
Okay. And then our final question for now: how is the solution priced?
Great question. So there are two options. One option is for an unlimited use model, where again we don't worry about how many users you have, whether they're internal, external, so it's what we really take a look at is kind of the overall project value that's being managed, annual project value that's being managed in the application. And then the alternative, we do have for other groups that are looking for a smaller group of users to potentially use the application. And this, the concept of unlimited can be great if you have lots of different users. But if it's a smaller subset of users, then we provide for pricing starting at kind of our initial introductory pack for up to 30 users. And then we kind of do monitor the user counts that are using the application. So it's less expensive to get in that way. So that could be a great way to start. And then maybe as you start using it, starting more and more team members, the unlimited model may be more attractive, and you can switch back and forth between those two models.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, looks like that is all the questions that we have for you, Dan. But such a great presentation, super informative. Thank you for your time today. If anybody else has any more questions, feel free to contact Dan or I directly. Your company's sales rep will also be in touch with you soon, and they will be happy to answer any questions as well. As a reminder, please fill out our post-webinar survey, as your feedback is important to us. We want to thank you all again for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Dan.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.